I am Reed. I am 27, just an average dude. I've made tons of money mistakes in my 20s, and now I want to share everything I've learned to help you take control of your finances in your life. All right, so we need to talk about something pretty wild that has been gaining traction, and it involves President Trump, the United States dollar, and believe it or not, crypto. Now, when you hear crypto dollar, your first thought might be, oh shit, this guy's lost his mind, or this sounds absolutely insane, and I get it because it does. But let us actually dig into what is being proposed here because it is not gold, it is not oil, it is crypto. And it is aimed at addressing our massive $39 trillion debt crisis. This is a topic that can sound super complex and far-fetched, but the implications for our economy and your personal finances could be huge. When I first started trying to understand money, I was so overwhelmed by all the different theories and concepts. I thought it was all just numbers on a screen or pieces of paper. I didn't grasp the underlying trust and belief that gives money its value. It is like my own journey from being a broke spender to understanding how to build wealth. I had to unlearn a lot of conventional thinking and really look at the mechanics of how things work, not just the headlines. So, let us peel back the layers on this crypto dollar idea and see what is actually going on, why it is even being considered, and what it might mean for all of us. First, let us understand how money actually works. Its value. The value of money depends entirely on if people believe that it has value. Think about it this way. If I walk into a rural third world country and nobody there has ever seen a United States dollar bill before, and I say, hey, can you give me some food in exchange for this bill? They're not going to give me any food. Why? Because they don't believe it has value. They have no frame of reference for it. But if I walk into a Chipotle in the United States and I give them this bill, they're going to give me food. Why? Because people in the United States believe it has value, so it has more value. If people believe it has value, if people around the whole country believe it has value, it has more value. If people around the world believe it has value, it has even more value. It is all about collective trust and belief. Our money has gone through a lot of changes over the last 100 years, and it is about to go through another one, or at least that is what some are proposing. Believe it or not, the United States dollar was not always the world's reserve currency. It became the world's reserve currency in 1944 after World War II, through what was known as the Bretton Woods Agreement. And that meant two very significant things for the dollar and for the United States. Number one, it meant that trade around the world, a huge amount of it, happened in the United States dollar. So if Germany wanted to buy something from Japan, they often do it using US dollars. And number two, countries around the world started to save their money and their wealth in the United States dollar. They held massive reserves of dollars. So being the world's reserve currency brought a tremendous amount of value, a lot of trust, and a lot of power to the United States dollar. And by extension, to the United States itself, but that is not all. The other reason why the United States dollar had so much value back then was because it was backed by physical gold. This was the gold standard, which meant the United States government and the Federal Reserve Bank couldn't just print more money out of thin air whenever they felt like it, because we needed more gold to justify more money printing. Our money was literally backed by this precious metal, which was physical gold. This created a sense of stability and limitation, preventing unchecked inflation, but then that temporarily changed on the 15th of August 1971, when then President Richard Nixon took the United States dollar off of the gold standard. He famously directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States. And here we are 55 years later in 2026, and we're still temporarily off of the gold standard. After the dollar was taken off of the gold standard in 1971, a lot of people got concerned if there is no physical thing backing the United States dollar, how is it actually going to have value? Because it is just pieces of paper, right? What is stopping the government from just printing endless amounts of it, devaluing everyone's savings? This was a real worry for many, and it prompted the government to seek a new way to ensure the dollar's value. So in 1974, a very crucial deal was made between the United States and Saudi Arabia. And the deal in simple terms was, hey you, Saudi Arabia, you are going to sell all your oil in the United States dollar, and you are going to make sure that all around the world, every other country has to sell oil in the United States dollar as well. This will be a way to keep value, power, and trust in the United States dollar. And in exchange for this, the United States would then protect Saudi Arabia. So that happened in 1974. This was called the Petrodollar Agreement, or a lot of people just kind of refer to it as the petrodollar. This created a massive continuous global demand for US dollars, ensuring its place as the world's reserve currency even without gold backing, but that then started to change and break in 2023. I put some question marks here because history is 20/20ths, and we LLC what ultimately happens over the next 10 years. But the signs of change are undeniable. It started to break in 2023 because that was when Saudi Arabia then started to sell oil not exclusively in the United States dollar, but also in the Chinese yuan for the first time that we had seen in about 50 years. And now naturally you can start to see where people got concerned if the United States dollar is not backed with gold. And now if people are buying oil not with the dollar but with the Chinese yuan, Will the dollar collapse? What is that going to mean for the value of inflation? How are we going to protect ourselves and our savings? These are all legitimate questions that reflect a deep-seated anxiety about the future of our financial system. And this is where we're restarting to see President Trump come up with a new plan for the United States dollar. Not with gold, not with oil, but with crypto now. I get it. The idea of a crypto dollar sounds absolutely crazy to most people. It conjures images of unstable digital currencies and wild speculation, but we're restarting to see it happen already. Even if quietly, a single crypto company, for example, already owns more United States government debt than 19 countries around the world. That is a staggering amount of influence, but that is not all. In 2025, President Trump signed an executive order establishing cryptocurrency as a strategic government reserve asset. This is a significant step signaling a governmental recognition of crypto's potential importance. And third, and most important in this whole equation, is a law called the Genius Act that will come into effect in January of 2027. What this Genius Act says is that stablecoins are required to be backed one-to-one by United States treasuries, meaning essentially by United States dollars. It is almost like before how the United States dollar was backed by physical gold and then later indirectly by oil through the Petrodollar agreement. And now we're restarting to see laws requiring these cryptocurrencies to be backed by the United States dollar. This creates a direct link, a new form of backing that ties these digital assets directly to our national debt and financial system. By the way, this is one of the reasons why on the 16th of June 2026, I am hosting a live, free, and virtual investor workshop because our economy is changing so rapidly. Investments are changing and money is moving in ways we haven't seen before. And if you want to see how you can better position yourself for retirement in an age where money is changing, AI is changing technology, and our economy is changing very rapidly. On this Live Investor Workshop, I am going to be showing you how you can capitalize on all these changes and hopefully grow your wealth even faster because of these changes. I'll be showing you some new research that my firm has put together. So if you are an investor and you want to see how you can use all these changes to your advantage, I invite you to join me for free and live and virtually on the 16th of June. I am doing it live at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Time. And just to be clear, there is a limited number of people that can join me live on this live workshop because of our software limitation. So if you are interested, I encourage you to register soon. And please note this time and date on your calendar. So if you are an investor and you want to see how you can use these changes to your advantage, I invite you to join me on the 16th of June for my live investor workshop. Just for full transparency, let me actually read you exactly what the Genius Act says directly from the White House website. It states, the Genius Act requires 100% reserve backing with liquid assets like United States dollars or short-term treasuries, and requires issuers to make monthly public disclosures of the composition of reserves. That means every digital dollar in this system, every stablecoin, is required legally to hold United States debt. This is a critical point. The way that this works, generally speaking, is that the United States government has one primary source of revenue, and that source of revenue is tax dollars collected from taxpayers. In 2026, it is estimated that the government is going to collect something like $5 trillion from taxes. Well, then the United States government goes out and they spend money. They spend money on things like Social Security and healthcare and infrastructure and the military. Well, as you might know, we don't run a balanced budget in 2026. The government is not going to spend $4 trillion or $5 trillion or even $6 trillion. We're going to spend something like $7 trillion. Well, that is a significant gap, a deficit. And to make up for this deficit, the United States government then has to go into debt to borrow that money. They issue treasury bonds, notes, and bills to raise the capital they need. Well, this is where things start to get really interesting because historically, there are three main lenders of money to the United States government. Number one are private people and institutions. This includes people like you and me who lend money to the government by buying treasury bonds in exchange for interest. It also includes private banks and other financial institutions that lend money to the government. Number two are foreign governments. These are countries like Japan and the United Kingdom and China, which have historically lent massive amounts of money to the United States government by buying our debt. And then number three is the Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank is the central bank here in the United States, and they actually not a bank in the traditional sense because you can go there to deposit money. They not a reserve because they not sitting on any actual cash reserves in the traditional sense. They actually not federal in the way most people understand it, as it says. So on their website, they just have the unique ability to essentially print money or create it digitally and lend it to the government if the government can borrow enough money from other places. They act as the lender of last resort. Well, what we seeing happen is that more and more foreign countries are not buying more U.S. debt, or they even selling it. China, for example, has turned into a net seller of United States debt. We've seen economic issues in the Japanese economy, so Japan is saying, you know what? Maybe we're not going to buy as much of this United States debt as we used to. And when it comes to private people, more and more individuals are saying, you know what, I am concerned about inflation. I am concerned about the long-term solvency of the United States government.